Yo, what's going on YouTube? Welcome back to another Cloud9 video. Today we're doing something a little different. Today we're going to be reacting to the top 10 places on Earth humans still haven't visited. So, grab some snacks, strap in. Further ado, let's get right into it.
Deep beneath miles of water, crushing pressure, and total darkness, species we've never seen. Some mountains, forests, and islands are so remote or protected that humans haven't set foot there, and we may never know what lives inside. From underwater labyrinths to dangerous mountains and jungles, the world still has corners so extreme that exploration feels
I forgot the tribe,
almost
I forgot the name of that tribe, but that's the one tribe that like the Indian government is like protecting. Like no outside people can go to that island, right?
impossible. These are
I think it's
places
like
on
North
Earth we
Central
still
Indies
haven't
Island or something like
explored.
that.
The abyssal plains cover about 40% of the ocean floor, sitting deeper than 2,000 meters below the surface. These are genuinely the flattest places on Earth. Down there it's pitch black, no sunlight at all. The temperature is close to freezing, and the pressure is literally 1,000 times what you'd feel standing on a beach. You'd think nothing could live down there, but scientists have found thousands of tiny creatures. Everything from microscopic bacteria to weird little critters crawling around, with over 80% of them being completely new to science. But most of these areas still haven't been explored. It's just so
So there are hills and mountains, stuff just like
fast,
forest
and sending
mountains are
submersibles
there?
down there is expensive and dangerous. And there's another problem. We're racing toward knowing less about these places, not more. The International Seabed Authority has granted over 30 exploration contracts for deep sea minerals,
What the hell is
including
that?
these nodules,
Jellyfish?
small rocks rich in manganese, nickel, cobalt, and copper that companies want to harvest. In 1978, a mining track was made way deep down in the Clarion-Clipperton zone, and when scientists
wally.
returned 26 years later in 2004, the sediment still hadn't recovered. So removing these nodules could cause a large chunk of these species to die out. We could destroy entire ecosystems down there before we even get to document what lives there. Most people know about the Mariana Trench, but the
Wait, so we can't document what's in there because if we
chromatic
do,
trench off New
then it'll kill
die
the
out. We could
ecosystem?
just so removing these nodules could cause a large chunk of these species to die out. We could destroy entire ecosystems down there before we even get to document what lives there. Most people know about the Mariana Trench, but the chromatic trench off New Zealand is just as extreme and way less explored. It stretches about 1,000 kilometers from a long line of underwater volcanoes called the Louisville Seamount Chain down toward the northeastern coast of New Zealand's North Island, and it's over 10,000 meters deep. That's deeper than any mountain is tall. In 2022, the Chinese submersible Striver made 16 dives between 5,700 and 10,000 meters, and what they saw was straight up alien. One anglerfish was swimming upside down, a glowing lure hanging below it. Only the second ever seen like that. Then there were these sea cucumbers, tiny, delicate versions, 3 times smaller than the ones in the Mariana Trench. Every trench is basically its own lab of evolution. Different currents and food sources and sediments create these isolated ecosystems.
That one looks like a tadpole, not a fish.
Evolution.
Looks
Different
like a lone
currents and food
tadpole
sources
that
and
never
sediments
evolved into a
create these
ball.
isolated ecosystems where life just evolves in totally unique ways. And it's so vast that most of it is still a mystery. Antarctica looks like one giant frozen block of wasteland, but underneath all that ice is a hidden world of liquid water trapped for thousands, maybe even millions of years.
Wait,
Scientists have found over
if
600 of these.
all this stuff is unexplored, then how do we know that it's there? Because this is the top 10 places on Earth that humans still haven't explored, yet we know what's there? It's not adding up.
Subglacial lakes, and more than 230 of them are active, meaning they fill and drain in cycles that we're still trying to understand. And the biggest one, Lake Vostok, sits under about 4,000 meters of ice, about 500 meters below sea level, and is completely isolated. It's basically a natural time capsule. When researchers drilled through the ice, they found tiny living things in the water, mostly bacteria, but also some
So there are a bunch of cave systems and rivers and stuff under the ice in Antarctica? Is that
simple organisms,
that's what I'm
including
getting
ones
from this?
similar to
It's
what
pretty
you'd
dope.
find in fish guts. But this
Well,
isn't
why
just
would it
about ancient
not be
microbes.
able
These
to
lakes
be explored?
act kind of like lubricants under the ice sheet, controlling how fast glaciers slide into the ocean. So
Let's see why we can't
understanding them
explore
is
this.
important if we want to
This
predict
ice
sea level
caves.
changes. Drilling down to sample these lakes is insanely tricky though. You had to go through miles of ice without contaminating the water below, because that would just ruin the entire experiment. But it's worth it. There's a hidden alien world down there that's still almost entirely unexplored. Under the jungles of Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula, there's this massive maze of underwater caves. You get into them through cenotes, which are these round sinkholes that look like natural swimming holes. The biggest system we know of, called Sistema Zacactun, runs over 230 miles, and that's just what we've mapped so far. There are probably countless passages still waiting to be found. Exploring these caves is insanely dangerous. Divers sometimes have to squeeze through gaps barely wider than their bodies, and in some spots, they have to take off parts of their gear just to get through. Some tunnels drop more than 300.
Why are they mixing cave diving and scuba diving? Those are two sports that should never, never, never be mixed.
Feet straight down, so they need special breathing equipment and very careful planning to survive. Every new passage discovered depends entirely on a handful of explorers
Bro,
willing
with all that extra equipment, how are you making through these crevices? Like, to make it through those crevices as small as your body, you'd need one of those like James Bond, Batman type devices where they like, small. It's definitely seen it in one of those Batman animated movies where like he's swimming and he has this little mouthpiece that he just puts up to his mouth and it's like filtering oxygen, so it lets him breathe as he's swimming underwater.
to take enormous risks. And by
Oh,
risks,
thing?
I mean risking
Has
their
that
lives.
been
In
made?
2018, explorers finally connected Sistema Zacactun with another cave system,
Is that
Sistema dos
possible?
Hoyos, making it the longest flooded cave in the world at over 215 miles. It took 14 years of searching to find that link, and the full size of this underwater maze is still unknown. When people think of unexplored places, they usually imagine deserts or oceans, but some of the hardest spots to reach are way up in remote mountains. The Star Mountains in Papua New Guinea stretch about 60 miles, with peaks hitting nearly 4,800 meters, nearly 6 times the
Seem
height
like
of the
they're being
tallest
explored by the
building on
planes.
Earth. They were officially discovered in 1958, but only about 10 people have ever reached the top. These mountains are brutal. They're soaked almost all the time, super humid, and the terrain fights you at pretty much every step. Rain, mud, constant cloud cover make moving through them exhausting and very dangerous. But that same extreme environment has created a crazy amount of life. Scientists have found well over 1,000 species there, and nearly 100 of them you just can't find anywhere else in the world. Every plant and animal there is adapted to the wet, unpredictable environment, but scientists
I wonder
haven't been able to fully
if there are places on Earth where life hasn't been able to adapt to live to. Like, I guess like, inside volcanoes and things like that, super, super extreme places, I guess, there can't be life. But places on the surface,
study the area, making it one of the
I
most
doubt it.
mysterious ecosystems
If
left.
life's able to evolve to live at the deep pressures at the very bottom of the ocean, I'm pretty sure we can evolve to live anywhere on Earth, at least.
On Earth. The Amazon
Okay,
is
1 second, everyone. All right, guys, had a few technical difficulties, but now we are back.
enormous, of course. Valley do Javari is just a section of it, but it's bigger than Austria, and it's completely off limits.
Oh.
The area is home to the most uncontacted tribes in the world, people who have never had contact with the outside world. The Brazilian government has made it illegal for anyone to go there, and that's because even a simple cold or a flu brought in by outsiders could wipe them out. These tribes live completely on their own, and any interference could be catastrophic. And because of that, huge stretches of forest here are still completely unexplored. To anyone who doesn't belong to these tribes, that is. Most of the area's plants and animals are also completely unstudied. This is probably the most famous unexplored place on the planet, North Sentinel Island. It's home to the Sentinelese, one of the last groups of humans who live completely isolated from the modern world. They survive as hunter-gatherers still and have made it very clear they do not want visitors. Anyone who tries gets attacked. The Indian government declared the island and the surrounding waters off limits for very good reason. And it's similar to the last point. If these isolated people happen to catch anything, even a cold, it could be devastating to them. Because of that, nobody really knows what's on the island. We don't know how many people live there, what the plants and animals are like, or what the landscape looks like up close. Everything
We're not allowed, but I'm certain the Indian government keeps tabs on them some way, somehow. Like, there's n no way they're completely uncontacted.
we see comes from a distance, from boats or helicopters, and even those are limited. It's a place that exists on maps, but we can really only guess as to what's actually happening there. Way out in the South Atlantic, about 2,100 kilometers from the nearest.
It's a great way to hide what's going on the island, isn't it? The natives just want to be left alone. They don't want to be bothered, so don't go there. They'll kill you. And just have some of the natives out in front jumping around scaring people. I always see the same videos of North Central Island. There's never any like new videos. I guess, people don't go there regularly, so there wouldn't be. But I guess drone shots, plane shots, overview shots, I don't know. I always see the same few clips.
Town, there are two islands called Go and Inaccessible. No, it's not a mistake I'm making. There's actually an island so remote, they just named it Inaccessible. Barely any humans and no invasive animals like rats, cats, or goats, things that have wrecked almost every other remote island, have managed to get there. And because of that, these islands are basically time capsules. Inaccessible Island alone has 2 bird species, 8 plants, and at least 10 bugs and other small creatures you just won't find anywhere else on Earth. Scientists can use these islands to see what an ecosystem looks like when humans haven't messed with it, which is rare for anywhere on the planet. Reaching them is not impossible. You can get there by boat, but almost no one does, because it's just a long, rough journey through some of the roughest ocean in the world. And the harbor on Inaccessible Island is only accessible a few days out of the year. Northern Greenland is one of the most hostile places on the planet. Most people will never set foot there. The ice stretches for hundreds of miles in every direction, and the only things moving are the glaciers slowly inching toward the sea. Temperatures can drop to minus 50 degrees Celsius. You can only imagine that with wind. Must make it painful to breathe. Landing a plane or setting up a camp here is basically impossible in most areas. Even researchers using planes and satellites can only get rough measurements, and drilling through all that ice to get a sample is a massive challenge that takes years of planning. But we do know there's stuff under the ice. Scientists using ice-penetrating radar and satellites have found hidden mountains, valleys, and lakes trapped under thousands of feet of it. Some of these subglacial lakes have probably been sealed off for millions of years. I mean, who knows
I wonder what kind of bacteria.
Most people think deserts are just
Frozen cavemen?
empty, aside from the coarse, rough sand that gets everywhere.
Frozen
But the
dinosaurs.
Namib in southern Africa is rather mysterious. This place stretches over 2,000 kilometers along the coast of Namibia, and
Awesome.
some parts are
Badass
so remote
Doritos.
you could drive for days and never see another person. Of course, it's scorching hot during the day, but it drops below freezing at night. And the giant sand dunes are always shifting, making the landscape almost impossible to navigate. Some of the areas haven't been studied properly because it's just too dangerous to get there. There's always a chance you could get caught up in a sandstorm or suffer heat exhaustion, but even in this extreme environment, life has found a way. There are
Imagine
elephants,
driving across the
lions that
desert,
hunt
nothing,
along the dunes,
nothing,
insects
miles
crawl
and miles.
underground, small reptiles hide
Hoping
in the
you see
gravel
something.
plains, and scientists are still discovering species
And
that
then the one
barely
time you do,
exist
it ends up being
anywhere
a
else
mirage.
on Earth. I've been your host, James. I'll catch you, yes, you specifically, next time.
Well, that was a very interesting video. I guess makes sense that these places aren't fully explored, but we are aware of their existence. So I guess that's why, you know, still haven't explored them because it's dangerous to. But I think that some something should still be explored for the sake of science. What do you think? Maybe leave the North Sentinelese alone, leave them alone, leave the tribes alone that don't want to be bothered, right? But I want to know what's under that ice that he was talking about. Like, it's hard to get there. I want to know, so, what we find like a frozen caveman, like a frozen baby dinosaur in there, bro, and then defrost it. And then we got like cavemen living in modern times. So like baby dinosaur, bro. Imagine it. Dope. All right, guys. Well, if y'all enjoyed that video, Do not forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell notification, do all that good stuff. Comment below what y'all want me to watch next. And I'll see y'all next time.